Well, welcome to Diabetes Support on this St. Patrick's Day. It's nice to see so many people in green. It took a little while for me to find something green to wear, and actually I'm Scandinavian, so I should be wearing red, but don't tell anybody. So we have a little change on our agenda today, but we're very fortunate to have Dr. Jacobs speaking about his product, the Gentile Lancing device, and he's going to do a Q&A. So you can ask your questions. I have a lot of them written down, and so we will do that afterwards. So let's welcome Dr. Jacobs.
Thank you. First, my doctor is a PhD, not an MD. And we make fun of the doctors. We say we invent all the stuff that you guys get the credit for. So almost everything that a doctor uses was developed by a PhD, not an MD. Now they are the most wonderful users of the devices and things that we invented, that we couldn't do what they do and they couldn't do what we do. Sort of the difference in everyday talk would be we do the engineering drawings on a car and sort of assemble it, and then they're the most wonderful drivers of that car. They'll get the car where they want to go. So I'm going to, the good news and the bad news about having a PhD rather than an MD give a talk is we tend to not use big medical words. We tend to just give it to you. This is what's happening. Your body is a machine. It works like this, and when it's not working right, here's the mechanics of what's wrong. And that's sort of a little bit of what I'm going to talk about. So, there's basically, diabetes is a situation where your blood sugar is not controlled. How many of you here do not have diabetes? Okay, so 4 or 5. Be patient with us. We're going to talk about diabetes. Now, in most cases, blood sugar not in the right level is blood sugar too high if untreated. We're all okay with that. How many of you know the difference between, in a practical, mechanical sense, the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes? Give me a shot.
I think your body doesn't make insulin for type 1.
It doesn't make any insulin.
Right.
Okay. That could also be type 2. The main difference is type 1, well, let me start with type 2 diabetes, is your pancreas has worn out. Now, please believe me, this is just general categories, and I'm sure that everything that I said or Dr. Michaels would have said, you'll have somebody that says, yes, but what if you were in this situation under those crazy conditions? That would be the exception. So please understand that this is just a general talk, and I think if we're all on the same wavelength, it would be helpful. Type 2, your pancreas has worn out. It's gotten tired. I always make the analogy that your pancreas is not like a muscle. A muscle, the more you work it, the stronger it gets. A pancreas is more like an engine of a car. The harder you work it, the faster it wears out. And like all cars, some engines, some pancreases wear out faster. Nothing wrong. I mean, that's just the way it is. Type 2 diabetes has a reasonable chance of being reversed or the effects diminished. Type 1 does not. Type 1, on the other hand, has something external to wear and tear that has reduced its functionality. Would anybody care to guess what the most common sources of type 1 are? Okay, one is genetic. You were born and your genes said you don't have, don't make this pancreas right. Type 2, the second reason is a virus or some pathogen has attacked your pancreas. It could appear to you just it was a cold, and yet that virus took, let's say, a liking to the beta cells in your pancreas and tended to attack and shut them down. And type 3 is a toxin. And that's why certain people that, they originally thought certain type of people that lived in certain parts of the world had a genetic predisposition, but upon closer examination they found that they were exposed either through industrialization or naturally occurring chemicals that it attacked. In any event, I think the important thing to think about with diabetes is there's no good or bad. It's just let's deal with it and let's solve it. Let's live happy lives. And being in the industry and meeting so many people, nothing gives me greater satisfaction than to see a person, let's say with type 1 diabetes that's 89 years old and has more energy and frisky than some 20-year-olds who don't have diabetes. It is not a sentence that you're going to have to live a very sparse life. Now, at this point, is there any questions? If not, I'm going to go on to A1C. How many of you have heard or been exposed to having to deal with A1C? Oh, okay, so most of you are pretty familiar with it. Does anybody want to guess what is A1C? What does it do?
It measures the amount of glucose over about a 2-month period in your blood
Right. Do you know how it does it?
by how much the red blood cells collect.
Apogluma.
That's right.
Yeah.
The fancy word is that, let's use the word stuff. As your, the higher your A1C, the more stuff, which is long lasting, is dumped into your bloodstream. So that stuff stays a long time. See, I told you, doctors use bigger words. We use just everyday ones. So stuff is in your blood, and it takes a long time, actually longer than 3 months, for that stuff to run out. So when you come and you get an A1C, that buildup of stuff, and it's really linear. By that I mean, if your blood sugar averaged 100, you'd have half the A1C that you had if your average blood sugar was 200. So it's really a good test. And in fact, how many of you have had A1C tests done? Has it always been through your doctor? Have you always gone to your doctor? Little announcement. There are now pretty good at-home A1C tests. Believe me, I'm not saying to do this in lieu of going to your doctor, but why not, if it's cheap enough, test every month? Why wait 3 months and say, oh man, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. There's an interesting fact, and they're still debating, is this psychological or practical, that the more you test, the lower your A1C will be. Now, you'd say, well, why? Just the process of testing is going to lower my A1C? No. But the fact is, you're looking. And there's a saying that says you can't shoot what you don't see. And if you look at it, you just put that bad thing aside a little bit. So recommendation is to go ahead and get an A1C home test kit. It costs a little more and a little bit less than 15 to do an A1C test at home. And you don't have to drive, because as I said, it's at home. So a recommendation, again, PhD versus MD, this is just practical talk. Go ahead and get yourself an A1C kit and test it at home. Okay, so I brought a chart, and I'm not expecting you to look all over this chart. I don't mind passing it around. But let's take a guess. Well, first of all, what is a very nice A1C result to have? 6. Okay. 6 is, yeah, it's considered pre-diabetic. And how many of you have heard of Dr. Bernstein? Good name to look to Google. Probably one of the world's foremost authority on diabetes. Awesome guy, and very outspoken. And he has a book, again, we're talking practical, called Diabetes Solution. You buy the book, you sit down, you read it, you follow what he says, and I have personally witnessed incredible results. Drops from 6.5 to 5 in A1C with no extra medication. He just knows how to do it. So he says that proportion, the lower the A1C, the better, down to about 4.8. I think that's a very admirable goal to get. I don't know how many of us could achieve 4.8. I followed his stuff, and I dropped mine from 6.4 to 5.1, just following his stuff. So, again, this lecture is different than Dr. Michael's, because I'm just saying, hey folks, here's what happens in the real world. And I'll give you some examples. If you have an A1C of 6, what do you think your average blood sugar over the last 3 months would be?
120.
Okay, 120. Give me a guess. 110.
100.
No. 136. That's why. Now remember, that's an average. So one of the interesting things about not testing that often, we're talking about psychology here, is that you know from experience when your blood sugar is likely to be the lowest, and that's when you pick up your Lancet device and test. Oh, great, 110. I'm not sure I'm even having.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is why if you wanted an A1C average of, let's say, 100, it would be 5. Your A1C would be 5. Now, we won't get into my product just yet, but we developed, a lot of psychology has also proven that we lie to ourselves. Sorry to say. But one of the reasons that we don't test, one of the subconscious biggest reasons we don't test is we know it's going to hurt. I don't particularly prefer that, I'd rather sit on the couch and have a donut than test. Anyway, so the product that I developed, and I'm not going to talk at length right now, except for the psychology, allows you to test from anywhere on your body with no pain. And after the lecture, anybody that wants, we can do show you an absolutely painless blood glucose test. And instead of testing on your fingers, because we know anybody can get blood from your fingers, we'll test anywhere else on your body. Interestingly enough, the best place that, we do a lot of research on this, by the way, so, and I'll tell you when I'm quoting literature or when I'm quoting our own research, one of the best places to test is just 1 inch up from your knee, particularly when you get up in the morning. Now, it's difficult to do that with a conventional lancet, so we have experience with Gentile. Why would you think this is such a good place to test? Reason? Nature must have known when you were a kid you were going to be an idiot and skin your knees all the time. So it put very few pain nerves there.
Oh.
But folks, it's a moving joint. So there's plenty of blood supply. You can't have a moving joint without lubrication. Lubrication requires blood. So the amazing thing is that is like the holy grail of testing. Where can I go? It's going to have plenty of blood and no pain nerves. So it's a great place if it's convenient. You know, now if you're at a restaurant and you have slacks on, you're not going to, you know, let's get real. But first thing in the morning when you're supposed to test your fasting blood, great. Put your feet on the floor, sit in a chair, test 1 inch up from your knee.
Above the cap?
Right here, yeah, you know there's that recess right
Cap.
Yeah, then up there's a trough there, right up above from that trough.
Okay.
Now, you have heard some information from many doctors that, and I normally don't contradict doctors, that blood taken from your fingers is more accurate than blood taken from anywhere on your body. Now, first of all, that doesn't sound very logical. Isn't it the same blood? Do I replace my blood every circulation? No, the same stuff goes around and around. Although, how long do you think the blood in your body takes before there's not a single red blood cell left that's in there right now? How long will it take? Till it's used up. It breaks and it's used up. About as long as the A1C lasts, which is 120 days. Every blood cell that you have in your body right now was not there 120 days ago. It was made in your bone marrow